as soon as Michael can get this up on the screen, then we can begin. Um, maybe I told you last week, I said that, our sessions are three parts to every session. There's the opening part where we recite prayers to set our intention. And then there are the actual practice or the teaching, whatever we're doing is our actual main practice. And then at the end, we do our dedication. So we have these prayers that we use for the opening part and for the dedication part. So it helps us to focus on, what that motivation is. So I'm sure that you're familiar with prayer books and so on. And for us, and I'm sure with everything else, it's a mindfulness. It's bringing yourself together into, what your plan is, what your intention is. So that's what I wanted to go over tonight and talk about these. So what we've done, Rebecca, we made this booklet and we've extracted these prayers from what our normal temple book would be that we would use when we go inside the shrine room and so on. And so we made these just in English. We took out the Tibetan language, but we left in the Tibetan phonetics so that we can get familiar with that. Tonight, we're not going to spend any time on the Tibetan phonetics, but we're just going to concentrate on the English to understand the meaning. So one of the most important things that we're trying to do is to overcome our ego, is to eliminate our attachment to ourself and to our possessions and to things. So human beings have this nature to be able to separate themselves from other beings, because this enables the ego to be superior, and the ego wants to feel very secure and very happy all by itself. So it will create a sense of me and other. So what we're trying to do with our practice is to eliminate that difference and see that me and other are the same thing. So we do this altruistic motivation, which of course is a brother or sisterhood motivation for our brothers and sisters to see that we're all the same. And for us to do this with our families is pretty easy. We can be very altruistic with our brothers and sisters in our family, with our mothers and fathers and our children and our aunts and uncles and so on is very easy. And with our friends, it's all very easy to be able to have this altruistic motivation. But it's really difficult to have it with strangers, and especially with those who have a bad intention for us, those who may consider us to be their enemies. But that's one of the things that we need to do, is to be able to eliminate even that difference and say that we're all the same, we're all together. So through being able to show altruism for those who might be considered our enemies, makes everything else easier, and being able to eliminate our ego. So this prayer is designed around that notion. So if we can read this together out loud in English, we'll do this 3 times. So it says, all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. So what this is saying is that all sentient beings, if we regard all sentient beings as our mother, that whether they're our mother in this lifetime, or they've been our mother in a past lifetime, or maybe we've been their mother in a past lifetime, But if we regard all beings as our mother, then it simplifies, it makes it easier for us to have loving kindness and compassion for all beings, because who's to say that we weren't in the same family in some other lifetime? So it may not be quite as literal as that, but we can think of it that we're all together in this space and time. And if we think of each other as mothers, is very important. So we say, all mothers sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me. So those who are very, harmful, want to be harmful to us, those who hate us, who want to do harm to us. And then we say obstructors who do harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, because we may have a pathway that we're trying to follow, some kind of creed or some kind of practice, spiritual practice, or just some kind of practicing just freedom, and being able to live that. But there are people who are always trying to interfere with that and dictate how they think we should be living and so on. So we're showing them this altruistic motivation. So the next stanza or the next line says, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. So regardless of what their motivation is for their hatred, we want them to experience happiness and be separated from their suffering, because hatred is the result of suffering. If we look at our emotions, and hatred being one of those emotions, that there is a cause for that. And that cause can have all kinds of myriad aspects to it. And one of the things that we learn is how to be able to dissect that, how to be able to analyze that. But we have to see that these sufferings are what is causing these hatreds. So may they experience happiness, be separated from their suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. So here what we're trying to do is, through our purification, through our trying to overcome our hatred, through our trying to eliminate those causes of hatred, or causes of emotions and so on, that we will help them to establish their awareness of what their causes are and be able to eliminate those, and then to reach the state of the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. So this Buddhahood is a state that we talk about as being within all of us. If we can go back to a full picture right now for a minute, Michael, to my picture.
Yep.
You got my picture up?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing you. Okay. So what we think is that within our heart center is our true nature. This is our heart center, but it's not just our physical heart, it's our heart center. And here is our true nature. And there's many different names for this. Some people might call it God. Some people might call it the Buddha. People might call it Krishna. Some people might call it Christ. But there is this true nature that we all have within us that is the essence of our loving kindness, of our compassion, of our joy, and of our equanimity. So for us, we call it our Buddhahood, or our Buddha nature. And the Buddha means awakened. So the awakened one is one who recognizes this, and that there's no differences between all of us, no matter what intellectual things that we have created for ourselves that separate us, whether it's our political differences, or it's our religious differences, or it's our sexual differences, or it's our our financial differences. All these things are fabricated and contrived in order to sustain ego. So whether it's an individual ego or it's a collective ego of a family or a neighborhood or a community or a nation or whatever you might have, a religious group, whatever, that these egos are created through this. But the essence of all these is that there is this sameness, that there is this oneness between all of these beings. So we call it this precious Buddhahood, but you could substitute that with any name that you might like. So that's the meaning of this altruistic motivation. So the first thing that we're saying is that no matter who is coming at me with whatever they are trying to harm me or whatever they're trying to create obstacles in my life to try and be able to sustain this freedom, this happiness for myself and so on, and this path of omniscience, of knowing in a true sense, of knowing as a gnosis, as a clear knowing, as having this experience and so on, that we are saying to them that we will help them to have happiness and to establish themselves in this state of unity, of all being together like this. So if we can, we'll recite this again twice, out loud together. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Okay. So then we move to the next prayer, which is the action bodhicitta prayer. And maybe, Michael, can you reduce that a little bit? On my page, it's showing that our images are superimposed on top of that. Is there a way to, that's it. Can you go back to the page number 2 then? Yes, that's it. So this is called the action bodhicitta prayer. If you can go to that, page number 2. Right. On that book, it's page number 4. Oh, maybe that's an old version. Okay, sorry. Okay. So this is the action bodhicitta prayer. Bodhicitta is the Sanskrit word that means the holy enlightened mind. Bodhi means enlightened, enlightenment, bodhi. Citta means the heart, the mind heart, the big heart. We have our little mind, our intellectual mind, but we also have our big mind, which is in the heart center. And that's what we're talking about, this true nature that we have. So this bodhicitta is the holy enlightened mind. The holy enlightened mind heart is bodhicitta. And the 4 qualities of this bodhicitta is what I explained a little bit before, was loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So no matter who we are, no matter what tradition we're talking about, the great teachers all share these qualities. They have loving kindness for all beings. They have compassion for the suffering of all beings. They have empathetic joy for all beings. And they have equanimity. They have this sense of sameness, this sense of balance with all beings. So whatever tradition you might be thinking about, whatever civilization they might have been living in, at whatever time in the story of mankind and so on, the great masters had these qualities, had this bodhicitta. And of course, in Buddhism, we emphasize this. We say that these are what the holy enlightened ones have these qualities. But it's not just limited to the Buddhism. It's all great beings have this. So, and it's the qualities that we look for within ourselves. We have all this potential within ourselves. One of the things that the Buddha taught was that we all have Buddha nature within ourselves, but it's blocked up. It's like taking a jewel, like taking a diamond, like this diamond here, and taking this diamond and putting it into mud and letting the mud dry. And now you can't see the diamond. All you see is this clump of mud. But if we can wash away, if we can remove, if we can dust off, if we can break away that mud, then what is revealed in the center is this diamond. And this diamond is made up of bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So this is within all of us. And it's our search to be able to unveil that, to remove the blockages, the defilements that are covering that up and so on. So this action bodhicitta prayer is a means by how do we do that? How do we remove this muddy jewel that we have and so on? And we do it by over and over again by doing good things, by practicing bodhicitta, the loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And by doing this, we begin to recognize it, we become to be more and more familiar with it, and we enjoy it more, and other people around us enjoy it more. And then by virtue of engaging in that, helps very much for us to be able to recognize this true nature that we have. So this action bodhicitta prayer, we recite this tonight. We'll recite it 3 times. So if you can put that back up on the screen.
I am taking the liberty of doing little screen captures of these as you put them up.
Good. That's fine. Did you get the action bodhicitta prayer captured? Oh, you did? Okay, so everybody else has the book, so we don't have to be, scrambling with this right now. Okay, well, there it is. Okay, so the action bodhicitta prayer. So let's read this out loud 3 times. First time. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, and until now, until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. So what this is saying is that until I achieve enlightenment, until I die, or until tomorrow comes, and tomorrow really never comes, I'm always going to perform virtuous deeds with my physical body, with my speech. My speech is the agent of my brain, of my intellect, and with my mind. My mind is the big mind, this heart mind, the mind that is the spiritual mind. So I'm always going to perform these virtuous deeds with the body, speech, and mind. So this is taking the bodhicitta and putting it into action by always doing that. So we recite this twice again in English. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. So again, this is helping us to focus our mindfulness on our practice and what we are going to do as a result of our practice, that we are going to develop cultivate bodhicitta, and that when we get up off the cushion, so to speak, when we leave the teaching, that we will take this awareness with us. We will take this mindfulness with us. So now we go to the next prayer. We're going to
I
skip.
do have a
over.
question.
Yes, go ahead.
So is that like 3 horizons? Is it, it seems like it's, that last one was very far away, kind of far away, and just tomorrow.
Well, I guess you could express it that way. It's an interesting way. I've thought of it that way.
Oh, okay.
Yes, until I achieve enlightenment might be very far away. Is that what you're saying? And then until, and death may be closer than we think.
Exactly.
And that until this time tomorrow might be, well, okay, tomorrow is just around the corner, just a few hours away, you know. But
That
yeah,
one seems doable.
that's it. Yes. But we do one thing at a time. We take off little bits of obtainable goals for ourselves. Okay. So now let's go to the page, the short refuge prayer. So if you can go to that, please, Michael. There it is. So if you can make it so that Rebecca can get a screenshot of that. Actually, I think, no, go back the other way. Whoop. One more time. I think that's it. That's it. If you can get a screenshot of that. So this is the short refuge prayer. So refuge for us is the 3 jewels. And the 3 jewels are the body, the speech, and the mind of the Buddha. And the Buddha is this true nature that we have within ourselves. Buddha Shakyamuni, as we explained last week, he experienced this. He attained enlightenment through this method that we're approaching. And so through his physical body, if you recall, he realized that he had to be able to use his physical body. He could not dismiss his physical body. He had to use his physical body, and he had to support his physical body. If he did that, then he had an opportunity then to support his intellect and be able to use his intellect, which is here symbolized by the speech. And then if we have our speech, if we have our intellect intact, then we can begin to open up and begin to recognize our mind, our true mind, our Buddha mind. So these are the 3 jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha being the mind of the Buddha, the Dharma being the speech of the Buddha, and the Sangha being the body of the Buddha. So the body of the Buddha is the community of people and our own physical body that is all involved with cultivating all of this. Our brothers and sisters, all the texts that we have, all the practices that we do, and so on, is all part of the Sangha, all part of this intellectualization of coming together with this to develop this awareness and so on. The speech is the intellectualization, or the text is the Dharma itself, and the Dharma is this pathway that we are on. There's many different pathways that are all considered to be dharmas. In Sanskrit, we would regard those as dharma with a little d, with a lowercase d. But the uppercase d would be the Buddha Dharma. The Dharma is taught by the Buddha. This is the pathway to achieve Buddhahood, to achieve liberation, to achieve enlightenment. So this is what the Buddha was teaching. And in that, we're learning about all the different aspects of our emotions, what causes those emotions, what the antidotes to those emotions are, what wisdom is, what blocks wisdom, how we can cultivate wisdom, how we can remove the blockages, and so on. So all these things all together is what's involved in the Dharma and so on. And it is, at this very basic level, it's a code of ethics, moral ethics. So that was the primary teaching of the Buddha as he was assembling his Sangha, 2,600 years ago, was discipline. So the mind of the Buddha now is something that has to be transcended. In other words, for us as human beings, we can approach this mind through the body. We can approach this mind through our intellect, and we can get to a point where we can then kind of rest the body. We can rest the intellect, and then we can transcend any attachment, any awareness of our physical body, of our intellect, and we can enter into that mind of the Buddha, that mind of our spirituality that is transcendent beyond our human nature. So we call that the mind of the Buddha. This is the big mind. And we do this through our meditation practices. So through our meditation, we're getting our body ready, we're healthy, we're feeling good, we're sitting in a good balanced position, and then we are going to just rest, and then we're going to start contemplating on our practices. We're going to recite our prayers, we're focusing our attention onto our mindfulness and so on. And then there's a point at which we can leave that, we can transcend that. And then what we enter into is that meditative state of mind that is sort of beyond thought. It's in between thoughts. We can see thoughts coming, and we can see a thought, but we can let the thought go and then go back to being in this pure nature, being in this pure mindfulness. So I think all the traditions teach this, whether they talk about it in terms of approaching this through prayer or through different practices or something like that. But I think all the different traditions are talking about this transcendent nature that is available to us within our very lives as human beings right now. For those of us who attach to the physical body, who attach to the intellect, and don't allow ourselves to liberate, we won't experience that mind. We may have a glimpse of it once in a while. Maybe, we're on vacation, or maybe we're in some beautiful place, or something happens to us that we just kind of lose sense of where we are and who we are in a very joyous way. And we have this moment of epiphany or something like that, this moment of lucidity, of clarity, of blissfulness. And maybe we get that glimpse, but as fast as it comes, that's how fast it goes. We're not able to stabilize it. So this is what we're trying to work for, to be able to stabilize that and make that a vital part of our lives. So this refuge prayer is a means of articulating this, saying, this is what I take refuge in. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So for us, we call these the three jewels. This is the three jewels of enlightened activity. So we say, we say that our body is at the forehead chakra, the chakra at the crown or the forehead. And then the throat is the chakra of the speech. And then the heart is the chakra of the mind. So these three chakras, the body, the speech, and the mind. And then we say the Sangha, the Dharma, and the Buddha. The Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. So when we do this, for us, to have mindfulness of what we're doing, we're visualizing that we're holding this jewel of enlightenment in the center of our two hands, in the palm of our two hands. And so we can take our empty hands and we can take our thumbs and put them in our palms so that we're not holding our hands flat together. We're holding our hands cupping this jewel of enlightenment. And this helps our mindfulness. And then we say in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So now this prayer is calling to mind this. So it says, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. So we're saying the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, because the body of the Buddha is terrific, is great. The mind, the speech of the Buddha is pure. The mind of the Buddha is perfect. So we're trying to attain this body, speech, and mind of the Buddha, who is symbolic of all the enlightenments, of all the traditions, all the same, whatever name they may have. So in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. Because when we attain enlightenment, we become the Buddha. We become the body of the Buddha. We become the speech of the Buddha. We become the mind of the Buddha. So all this then becomes completely stable within ourselves. And we don't, there's no need for us to have to pray for this. There's no need for us to have to contemplate this in any way, because we become that. So this is what we're working for, is that liberation from our human self, to be able to release that to our true nature, to that liberated self. And it says, by the merit of generosity and other good deeds. So by doing good things, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that refers back to the first prayer that we did, the altruistic motivation, that is saying through doing these good things for other people, that this will lead me to Buddhahood. This will help me to Buddhahood, and so on. Sometimes we don't recognize things until we do them. Just hearing them may not make a difference to us until we actually do them. And when we do the good deeds and we see the result of the good deeds with other beings and with ourselves, then we say, oh, that's what it is. We didn't get it when we just read it. We didn't get it when we just said it. But when we do it, now it becomes an action within ourselves. It becomes an actualization of an aspiration. And then we get it. So we recite this prayer 3 times. We hold the jewel of enlightenment, or the 3 jewels in our heart, like this. And we say, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Okay, so now I just want to make a comment about these kinds of prayers and so on. And in our tradition, we are focusing on the doctrine of this tradition. However, this doctrine of this tradition doesn't say that it's the only doctrine, that this is the only way. The Buddha acknowledged that there's many different ways, and they're all good ways at the essence level. How it is that people begin to step on those traditions and be able to skew them for their own benefits and so on, or what seems to be the benefits of their groups, and disparaging others and so on like that. We're not interested in that. And we go to great lengths to be able to preserve this focus on the essence, and not allow these ego trips to come into our practices and to our minds and so on. So what I'm trying to say is that we come from different traditions. I know that, we come from, Rebecca comes from a Jewish tradition, and I know what, the way that they say, that you can't have, all these other, idols and stuff like that. And Buddhism and Hinduism and the Eastern philosophies are full of things like this. So I don't want to be offensive to you or to anybody else when we're exploring and understanding what these things are. They are, for us, they are symbols of our own nature, of our own human nature, and of our own Buddha nature, or that true essence. And whether we call that God, or we call it Christ, or we call it Krishna, whatever name we have for it, that's what we're trying to symbolize with these things. They're not meant to be, special objects or something like that, have special powers all by themselves. So I hope you understand that.
No offense taken here. I teach a Sunday school class to Jewish teens, and one of the things I enjoy telling them is that the God that I don't believe in is Jewish, and they have to work their way through that a little bit. Largely the same reason. Even the concept of God is a little too idolatrous for me.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, well, thank you. Okay. That's liberating. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we come to the next prayer. So these 4 prayers are the basic 4 prayers that we would recite every day, regardless of who we are, regardless of whether we're an ordinary being or we are a lama, a teacher, or that we're the Dalai Lama, the one that we, respect as being, the number 1 lama, so to speak. So we recite these every day because what we're trying to create is this mindfulness that is something that we take with us all the time. What are we first? Are we a human being first? Are we an American first? Are we this religion first or that religion first? What are we first? So what we're trying to get to is that we are a person of awareness, however you want to call that. Okay, so this 4 immeasurables, these are the 4 immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta, I said, was loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Those are the 4 immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta. So whether it is the Buddha or it's any of the other deities that we might, study about in Buddhism, or it is, great beings, great teachers who have come to us, as human beings and so on. And for us to recognize them, they would have had to have been human beings and so on. So, but they had these qualities about them that they would have loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, or bodhicitta, the holy enlightened mind. So this prayer here helps us to remember that. So the first line says, may all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. So again, we're using the reference of mother sentient beings. So sentient beings are all these beings, don't have to necessarily be humans. They can be animals. They can be insects. A sentient being is someone who has an awareness, someone who is born, someone who has feeling, can have suffering, someone who dies, someone who can be hurt, someone who has attachments to things and so on. So all these different beings can be sentient beings, so, and we look at all these beings as being all the same. In essence, we're all the same. So I have to say at this point, if we look at ourselves and we look at our hand and we see, oh, here's my hand and I see this skin and I see, but if I can look deeper in the skin, I can see that there's all these tissues and all these muscles and so on and these bones and so on like that. And then if I can look deeper into that, I see there's all these molecules that are making all these tissues and all these bones and all these muscles and stuff like that. And if I look a little bit deeper, I can see that these molecules are made up of atoms, and the atoms have subatomic atom particles to them and so on. And then if we look at all these other objects all around us, and we look at all these other beings, we see that we're all made up of the same thing. So with each level, there are these levels of evolution and so on. There are these levels of consciousness, certainly. But in essence, we're all made up of the same thing. We're all compounded beings. So sentient beings is a reference to that idea that we're all made up of things. And that we treat all this as mother, as I said before. So, and they're boundless as the sky. As big as the sky is to us, it's so much more than that. How many beings have been on this planet? How many beings may be on other planets and so on? Countless, gazillions. Who could imagine what it is like? But may all of them have happiness and the causes of happiness. Just that simple. They all be happy, and may they all have the causes of happy. That nothing interferes with their happiness. So that's a wonderful thing. So to be able to say that is to have loving kindness for all beings, that they all be happy and they all have kindness and they all have the causes of happiness. Then the next line says, may they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. So if we don't have that happiness, if we have suffering, then we need to be aware of that, and we have compassion for that. We have compassion for those who are suffering. If they don't have happiness, then they're suffering, there's sorrow, there's sadness. So we have compassion for that. So that's the other side of loving kindness, is being able, if we have loving kindness, we see the happiness, but then we also see the suffering at the same time, and we have compassion for that. So whether it's suffering for ourselves, or it's suffering for people that we know, or it's suffering for beings that we don't know, or it's suffering for animals that live in the trees. And if we start cutting the trees down, we're taking away the homes for these animals and insects and so on. So being aware of all this. And the next line is, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. So if you are happy, that is completely free from sorrow, then that means that you are in joy, that you are enjoying everything, that you're free from sorrow, that you have that happiness that is free from sorrow. You may recognize that there's all these myriad things that are happening to us, or that we have causes for them to happen to us, but we are transcendent of those causes, and we're maintaining this happiness all the time. This is pure joy. This is the joy of the bodhicitta, of being able to recognize that there is suffering, recognize that there's happiness, but at the same time, we kind of have evolved ourselves beyond that connection to the happiness, connection to the suffering. We maintain a level that is beyond that. In Buddhism, in Sanskrit, they call this suffering, they call this samsara. That's what this ocean of suffering is like. That's what they call this ocean of suffering is samsara. So, and within it are all these causes, all these things that are bringing unhappiness to us, bringing sorrow to us. So we are trying to liberate ourselves. We're trying to transcend this ocean of suffering, this samsara, into what we call nirvana. So you've heard this name nirvana. Nirvana is this awareness of the dualistic nature between happiness and sorrow, and all the other myriad combinations of dualistic nature that human beings are involved in. This is part of our human nature, is to see things in dualistic structures. And we do it over and over and over again. And it is something that we have to transcend. So the very notion of this samsara and then this nirvana itself is a dualistic structure. It's an intellectual device that we use to recognize our dualistic nature. So this joy comes from being able to recognize that and being above both of those things. It takes a great deal to do that. Remember, this is the wholly enlightened mind. We may have glimpses of this. Every day we are steeped in samsara. Every day we may have moments of nirvana. We may have worked for it for a long time, and we may be able to sustain nirvana for days and days and days and days, and then not even, be affected by samsara. But then something happens and we fall back into samsara for a time. But because we knew how to get out of samsara back up to nirvana, we right away get ourselves back up there. So having that joy, knowing what that joy is the quality of the Buddhas who never go back down, who don't have to go back down, because they are the embodiment of that joy. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to recognize. So may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. So then the next line is, may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So equanimity is this balance, this sense of balance, this sense of sameness, and be free from attachment and aversion. So here is attachment and aversion. Here is desire, attachment, and here is aversion, hatred or dislike or anger. So here is another duality, another example of our duality. But may they rest in equanimity. May we rest in this balance, rest in this equanimity. And so this is the fourth quality of the wholly enlightened mind, of bodhicitta. And this is what we are trying to work for. So through our study of the Dharma, we understand more about attachment. We learn more about hatred, which creates the aversion and so on. And we begin to recognize these things. And we recognize that what we go through is a series of changes, that every day, every hour, sometimes every few minutes, we can go through where we're 70% this way, we're 30% that way. And then it can flip-flop, it can go the other way. Sometimes we're 50-50 and so on. So there's all these different, balances that we can go through. And so what we want to be able to do is to be able to maintain that balance all the time. No matter what is playing on in our lives, we maintain this balance that is beyond the dichotomies of the 70% and the 30% and so on like that. So these are the four immeasurable qualities. And this is very important. These things we come back to over and over and over again. So this is why we're introducing this first, so that you can, get this sense of what our ground is. These are the methods, these are the techniques, these are the prayers that everything else is built on. We come back to these over and over again. So we recite this prayer 3 times out loud together in English. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. And may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Okay. So as I said before, these prayers we recite every day. That's our goal. And it helps to establish the ground of what our day is going to be like. If we do this every day, the days that we miss, we feel like, there's something wrong. I didn't do my practice. I didn't do my prayers. I didn't ground myself in my altruistic motivation, in my bodhicitta, in my refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and the rest of the day feels a little bit strange to us. So it's a good thing to be able to have this connectedness to our spirituality. So if we do this every day, and to memorize these things is really, really, really good, because then we don't have to rely on a book anymore. We can just remember this. And then as we remember this, in the beginning, we're doing it by rote. We're doing it by heart, we say. But then after a time, it becomes our heart. We become the embodiment of these prayers. We become the bodhicitta. We become the Buddha nature. And then we don't have, it is with us all the time. So if we are in a stressful time or something like that, and we need to be able to kind of draw back and just kind of collect ourselves, to recite one or two or all of these prayers to help us collect ourselves, it's there for us. So it's very powerful and very, very meaningful to be able to do this. So now I just want to explain something about our three bodies. We talk about that we have three bodies. We have our physical body that we all recognize, that we all look in the mirror, that we all try and be really happy about and be proud about, and be able to make the best impression on people and take care of ourselves so that everybody likes us and we like ourselves. So we exercise, we eat properly, we groom ourselves properly and so on, so that we respect ourselves and people like us and so on, that we project this physical image to all beings and so on. So most of us spend a great deal of time thinking about our bodies. Then is our intellectual body. We might call this the mind, but we say this is the little mind. And then our intellectual mind is all the things, our body of knowledge, all the things that we've developed over the years that create this personality, that create this persona for us and so on, to be able to engage in society, to be able to engage in our families, to be able to engage in our jobs and do all the things that we do and so on. And we spend a great deal of time developing our intellectual mind. We go to school, we learn how to read and write, we learn how to do different jobs and so on. We go through different jobs, at different times of our life and so on. And many, many people spend their whole entire lifetime just thinking about their physical body and thinking about their intellectual mind. There's nothing else. That's all they do. And for many, that's great. That's what they believe that life is all about, and so on. However, there is this spiritual body. We have this spiritual body that is within us, this invisible, indestructible body that we have had from the moment we were conceived, and we maintain, we keep until the time that we die, that we give up this inner breath that we have within ourselves, when our physical body stops functioning, when our brain, our intellect stops functioning, then this inner breath must give up this spiritual body. So this spiritual body is a vibrant part of who we are. Many people don't recognize their spiritual body. And many people have all kinds of physical problems. They have psychosomatic illnesses. They have all kinds of neuroses. They have all kinds of idiotic things that happen within their lives and so on, because all they have is their intellectual body, and they have their physical body. And these can, interfere with each other. If you're not thinking properly, it can affect the way you feel. And if you're not feeling good, you can't think very well. However, if you've got your spiritual body intact, and you recognize your spiritual body, and you're working with your spiritual body, and it becomes part of your nature, then you have a way of being able to recognize those mental games that we play that create our neuroses, that create these psychosomatic illnesses and so on, that affect our physical body. We start feeling better if we recognize our spirituality. Now, we may not, think that I have a right to feel good because, I just cut myself very badly, and I've got 5 stitches in the palm of my hand, and I've got this bandage on me, and it's throbbing a little bit. But if we can learn how to transcend our physical body, if we can learn how to transcend our mind through the spiritual, now it doesn't hurt so much. Now it doesn't bother me so much. Now I can do some other things and so on. But if we don't have that, then we're just going around all day long thinking, oh, my hand, I cut my hand. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. That's all I can think about. So that might be an extreme example of how this balance can work. But when we recognize the spiritual body with our physical and intellectual, it's like a 3-legged stool. And a 3-legged stool can stand by itself. But I don't think there's any such thing as a 2-legged stool that can stand by itself. So we see that there is great strength in recognizing our spirituality. It's been with us the whole time. It's just a matter of recognizing it. So through the Dharma, this is what we are doing. Through our practices, through our realizations, through our meditations, through our teachings and so on, we're realizing how this spirituality works and how we can cultivate to make it stronger and stronger. Another example would be in our physical body. We want our physical body to be strong, so we go to the gym, we go use the exercise machines or the weights or whatever, we go walking, we do things to keep our body in shape, to condition our body. For our intellect, we get books, we read books, we play different kinds of word games and so on to keep our mind fresh and keep it active and so on. We learn how to paint, we learn how to make songs and music, to keep our intellect going and so on. We're strengthening it, we're keeping it fresh and happy and so on. Same thing with our spirituality. We have to work at it. It's there for us to do, but we have to constantly work at it. We have to develop it. We have to keep it in good condition. We have to keep it in good shape. So it means developing a routine, a practice to be able to keep it strong and keep it active in our lives and so on. So again, all this goes to that. So we have our physical body, our intellectual body, and our spiritual body, those three working together. Another example of this came from South Asia, South India, about 100 years ago. Was a great master named Sri Aurobindo. And he was a great yogi, and he had many, many, many followers and so on. And he used to teach something called the divine life. And it's this book, and it's all about, it's steeped in Hinduism and so on. And for him, the hero was the Superman. That's what he called him, the Superman. Of course, he used, a word in Hindi language that was representative of that. And I don't know what that word is, but he had the idea of the Superman. So this was around the turn of the century, of the 20th century. And he said that this Superman has this great body that he takes care of. He has this great mind that he takes care of. And he has this great heart that he takes care of. And this Superman is the complete human being. This is the complete human being. And that makes a lot of sense, I think. For me, that was really great to hear that. And this Sri Aurobindo was a contemporary of Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of modern India and so on. So whether or not they studied together or anything, I don't know. Some people say he might have, some people say he definitely did not. But they were contemporaries. And Gandhi certainly had those qualities, of bodhicitta. Certainly was an example of a Superman, despite the fact that he was a little guy and so on. But he practiced yoga, and he had a great mind, and he had a great heart and so on. So there's an example of how this was in India. In the 1930s in America, was during the time of the Great Depression. And there was great, terrible things that were happening in Europe and so on. And to help lift the spirits of people in America, comic books came out. And one of the first, if not the first comic book, the Marvel comic, was the comic book about Superman, Clark Kent, about this being who comes from another planet. How to come from another planet, because there wasn't anything that pure here. But he comes from another planet with this super strength. And he had this great intellect. He was able to understand things, and he could hear things, he could process things that no ordinary human being could do. And he had this great heart, and he could fly, he could do all these superhuman things, to be able to help other beings, to help human beings that were on this planet and so on. And Superman never hurt anybody. He subdued people, but he never killed anybody. And I grew up with that, of course. I grew up in the 50s, and so when Superman first came on television, I was there watching it, and then later on when the movies came out, I was there watching the movies and so on. And like I said, that all through all those stories of Superman, he never drew blood, never killed anybody, because that was his nature, was to be able to protect those that couldn't protect themselves, and to subdue those who were out of control, and give them the opportunity to redeem themselves. So this is an example of Superman. And so we ourselves all have that potential to be supermen and superwomen, using that example. So this is the spirituality. This is that aspect of respecting life, and never trying to take life away, trying to have people be able to recognize themselves and overcome whatever difficulties they're creating for themselves that are causing their emotions and their hatreds and their desires and so on like that. So is this making any sense? Okay. I know some of you guys have heard this all before, so thank you for hanging in there, but it's always good to refresh the memory about these things. All right. So what I'd like to do now is to do a practice. So we just had our opening prayers. We had our teaching about the meaning of the opening prayers. We had a few comments on what the matter is of being able to recognize ourselves as potential Buddha, as potential supermen and superwomen. So now I want to do a meditation that will help us to be able to develop our practice. So if everybody gets comfortable, and whether you're sitting on the floor on a cushion or straight on the floor, or you're sitting in a chair, the most important part is to keep your back straight. So what we do, we call this the 7-point position of Varanchana. So Varanchana is one of the Buddhas that we'll learn about. And so through this 7 points of Varanchana, we remember, how to properly sit for our meditation, to get our physical body ready. So we are sitting on a cushion, like I said, or on a chair. If we're on the cushion, our legs should be crossed. So you might call it the Indian position, or they call it the Vajra position. They got different names for it, but your legs just simply crossed, and you're balanced this way. You're not likely to just fall over unless you intentionally want to fall over. It's a good balanced position. If you're sitting on a chair, then you should have both legs together and both feet flat on the ground. And if you need to space your knees apart a little bit to maintain a comfortable balance, that's fine. You shouldn't be feeling like you're rigid. You should just be firm, stable. And if at any time you need to move because you're uncomfortable for whatever reason, just move. It's fine. Do whatever you need to do to maintain your comfort. If you're sitting on a cushion or on the chair, what we try and do is find what we call our sit bones. The sit bones is the lower portion of the pelvis, and it's underneath our butt. And if we can position our butt onto the cushion of our seat, of our chair, or on the cushion on the floor, and we put our weight on those sit bones, it doesn't press against the flesh of your thighs. And when you press against the flesh of the thighs, that's what causes your legs to go to sleep. So you want to find those sit bones if you can. Might take a little bit of maneuvering, a little practice to do that, but you'll find that once you get it, it stays with you. You can find it right away, and it's very comfortable. So that's the first position, is our legs crossed. The second position is to keep the back straight. The back should be straight all the time. If we have to move about to maintain our comfort, that's fine, but try and keep your back straight. The reason for that is that there is a center channel that runs through our body parallel to our spine. And that center channel is the channel where our life's energy is running up and down through our body, like this. It goes from the crown of our head down towards our butt. And so from the moment that we were conceived, that energy, that force has been with us and has been developing through there. And then we have these chakras that are these intersecting points that then have these channels that radiate through our body and so on. So we're not going to go in and examine all the chakras and everything, but we do want to be aware of the center channel. So we don't want to hunch over or bend it or do anything that would impede the flow of this natural energy that is running through us. So we keep our back straight. So that's number two. Number three is our hands. So our hands can be at our knees, and they don't have to be rigid. Our arms don't have to be rigid. Whatever is comfortable for you is fine. If you prefer, you can keep your hands, your left hand up and your right hand lying in your left hand and your two thumbs touching 4 inches below your navel. And this is the classic meditation position. And if you pull your shoulders back, you're not raising them up like that, but you're just kind of pulling them back so that you're opening up your chest and so on. It pulls your hands right into your abdomen, 4 inches below your navel. So your hands come naturally in here. So you might like to start with your hands here. You might alternate with your hands being on your knees or vice versa, whatever's comfortable for you, but keeping your hands in a comfortable neutral position is good. So that's number 3. And 4 with your shoulders back. Okay. So now your torso is all set. Your legs are all set. You're in a nice balanced position. So now the next thing is our neck is just a little bit forward and our chin is just a little bit down. So we're not up like this, we're down like this. And this is a relaxed position. So, it doesn't have to be extreme like that. It's not extreme like that. So the image is like a gallant horse, whether it's a mare or it's a stallion. We're thinking of the long face of the horse that is looking down. His eyes are up here and he's looking down, towards his nose. So our chin is down, our neck is just a little bit forward like that. So that's 5. And then 6 is our eyes are open, but just a little bit. And just a little bit of a gaze, and looking down, like I said, towards the nose. And actually what you're looking is past the nose. You're looking maybe 3 or 4 or 5 feet out in front of you. So if there's an object on the floor, if there's a pattern in the floor, just to be looking at that, but not analyzing it in any way. It's just a focal point, But in the beginning, it's really best to close your eyes because then there's less distraction, there's less thinking, and then if during the time that you're doing a meditation practice, you want to open your eyes, you open them in this way of just this gaze, not staring at something, but just a relaxed gaze. And your eyes are just, almost closed, but not quite closed and so on. Just letting in a little bit of light, not thinking about what it is that you're looking. You close your eyes, it's just dark and you're just relaxed. So that's number 6. And then number 7 is your tongue is on the roof of your mouth behind your front teeth. And what this does, it keeps your mouth moist so that you're not drying out and so on. And you're breathing through your nostrils, both nostrils simultaneously. You're breathing in through your nostrils and you're exhaling through your nostrils. Now, there are some practices that you may want to inhale through your nostrils and you exhale through your mouth. And usually that's when you're doing more forceful practices, yoga practices, something like that, where you have to expel the air in your lungs very quickly and completely. So you would breathe through your mouth. But, if you can do it both through your, both inhalation and exhalation through your nose, that's great. You got to use your mouth, it's fine. When you breathe through your mouth, it does have a tendency to dry your mouth out. So that's another reason why keeping your tongue on the top of your palate and behind your teeth keeps your mouth fresh. Keep your mouth closed. So these are the 7 points of Varanchana, 7-point position of meditation for Varanchana. Okay. So now we breathe in through both nostrils. And we fill our lungs with fresh, clean, pure air. So we visualize this fresh, clean, pure air. So maybe it's white air or it's clear air, but it's pure in any case. We're thinking of it as pure coming in. We're watching it coming in through our nostrils. And we're bringing in this air into our lungs by expanding the abdomen, not the chest. The chest remains simple. It does not active. We're expanding our diaphragm, pulling our abdomen out, which pushes the diaphragm down. And as we do that, that opens up the lungs. That pulls the air into the lungs. So when you take that breath, at the same time, you should be expanding your belly. And that's pulling down the diaphragm, opening up the lungs, and you can feel that air come in. And then you hold that breath. Now we exhale by squeezing the abdomen against the diaphragm, which presses against the lungs, that forces all that stale negative air now out of your nostrils. And then we hold that vacant breath. So we're breathing in, filling our lungs with fresh, clean, pure air, white, clear, positive nature, positive energy coming in. We hold that. And then we exhale, squeezing the abdomen, pushing that stale negative air out. And we visualize that negative stale air going out, that dark air going out. You know, all that waste air going out. And we hold that empty breath, that vacant breath. And we hold that. Okay? So now we try it again. Breathe in through both nostrils. Expand the belly. Hold it. Keep your body relaxed. Keep your back straight. Exhale. Squeeze the abdomen. Push that stale, negative, dark air out. Hold the breath. Keep your back straight. Breathe in. Your lungs fill up. Expand the diaphragm. Exhale. Hold it. Breathe in. Hold it. And exhale. I think that's 4. Breathe in. Hold it. Exhale. 5. Breathe in. Watch your breath. Watch the pure, clear air coming in. Visualize it in your lungs. Exhale, stale, negative, dark air out. Visualize it. Hold it. Visualize your lungs all empty. That was 6. Breathe in. Exhale. Stay relaxed. 7. Breathe in. in. Keep your chest quiet. Your diaphragm, your abdomen's doing all the work. Exhale. Nine. Breathe in. Out. 10. Breathe in. Out. 11. Breathe in. Out. 12. In. Release any tension in your arms or your legs or your shoulders. Just stay relaxed, holding the breath. Exhale. Thirteen. Breathe in. Out. 14. Breathe in. Out. 15. In. Out. 16. Breathe in. Out. 17. Breathe in. 18, breathe in. 20 out. 19, breathe in. 20 out. 20, now breathe in very deeply. Exhale very completely. Now breathe on your own at your own pace. Breathing in, exhaling, watching your breath. Mind wanders, just bring it back to watching the breath. Gentle, let the thought go. And we'll sit watching the breath for a couple minutes. And take a deep breath through both nostrils, fill your lungs, hold the breath. Exhale. Take a deep breath and raise both your arms up over your head. Don't hurt yourself if you Have any problem with your arms or anybody, your body? Bring your hands together over your head and look up between your two hands at the ceiling. Stretch your arms, stretch your back. Relax both hands, both arms coming down to your sides again. Breathe in again, inhale, raise your arms up over your head. Don't hurt yourself, stretch, look between your hands. Relax, bring your arms down. Exhaling. One more time, inhale. Raise your arms up over your head. Up between your hands. Stretch. Relax. Come back down, breathe, open your eyes. Okay. So that's a very simple breathing exercise. It is very profound because that is the very exercise that the Buddha Shakyamuni used to achieve enlightenment. So it doesn't require any special gizmos or any special techniques or special devices or anything like that. It's just watching your breath. So we can always do that. Okay. So are there any questions or comments about anything that we've talked about so far tonight?
How long did that go on?
Well, from when we started?
Yeah.
You mean with the 7 points of Varanchana?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. It's probably been about 20 minutes, 25
Okay.
minutes. So you can see that is a simple practice. That is a practice that you can do over and over again, and something that you should do often. And then as we develop other practices and so on, you integrate this practice in with those other practices. So you may not do them for the same duration, the same 20 counts of breathing and so on. You may do it 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times, whatever. But you'll see that this is the base of where we can start so many practices. How long did it seem to you?
Something between 3 minutes and a month.
That's good. Okay. It was a minute. Was it enjoyable? Or
That was nice.
yeah?
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Have you done meditation practice like that before?
Not for a long time.
Okay. Did it feel familiar and something that you'd like to do again?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's an integral part of what we do. You know, we learn academics, but then we have to take the academics and we have to put them to practice. It's an important part, you know, so the physical and the intellectual. And when those two come together, then the heart opens up. This is how we remove all the mud and stuff from the true nature, from the diamond. It's all part of the purifying. Sometimes we refer to it as purifying. So we're creating this system. We're aligning ourselves with the system. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All right, so then what we will do now is we'll so the middle part was this learning how to meditate, the 7 points of Varanchana, doing the breathing meditation, doing the little talk about the three bodies of refuge, talking about that. So that was our teaching. That was the main part. Now we're going to do the third part, the final part, which is the dedication part. Because we've done this not for ourselves, we're doing this for the benefit of others. We are purifying ourselves. We are making ourselves aware of this. We are increasing our knowledge, our loving kindness, our wisdom, and so on, so that we can have compassion and actualize that compassion for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings, is what we're learning how to do. So, so first, it's a matter of being able to relax ourselves, release ourselves from any tension, confusions, emotions, and so on like that. So now comes the dedication part. So if we go to our book, please, Michael, and we go to the dedication prayers with, in my book here, it's page 18. The version you have, I'm not sure. Could be towards the back of the book. If you just, there it is. Okay. No. I'm sorry. I was jigging some. Go to maybe the next page. Next page. There it is. That's it. Okay. So if we go there, and then the next page after that will be page 19. So wherever that is. No. All right, well, that's okay. We'll just use the page on the left. The page on the left side is called the dedication prayer. It's the lineage dedication prayer. So, and the opposing page is part of another prayer, so we're not going to go into that right now. But this dedication prayer is good. So, so this is our lineage. So our lineage is over 800 years old. This particular lineage. It was founded by Jigden Sumgun, who had, of course, excuse me, I'm getting over a little bit of a cough, who had many teachers and so on. This lineage is called the Kagyu lineage, which goes back maybe around 1,000 years. And then after 200 years, then Jigden Sumgun came, and then he called this, this became the Drikung Kagyu lineage. So I won't go into a lot of detail about it. But right here in the beginning, this first stanza in English, it says, Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Gampopa, Pagma Drupa, and Lord Drikumpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. So this is a homage, this is a respectful to our founding fathers, if you will, of this lineage, of the Kagyu lineage and of the Drikung Kagyu lineage. So we say this out of respect to keep our mindfulness of who our teachers are. So Dorje Chang is is symbolic of that essence of the true Buddha nature that is within all of us. It means indestructible wisdom, Dorje Chang. And so this is the wisdom that is in Buddha Shakyamuni. This is the wisdom that is in Jesus, the Buddha, the wisdom that is in Moses, the wisdom that was in Abraham, all these great leaders, the wisdom that was in Krishna, the wisdom that was in Gandhi, all these great leaders, spiritual leaders, had this wisdom within us. So Dorje Chang is the essence of that. So pure that it's unborn, that it doesn't take human form, this purity that is there. Because when it takes human form, now it's subject to corruption. But that purity that is within us all, and that's what we're trying to get to, is that pure nature. So Dorje Chang represents that. So then Talopa was a great master, a great yogi, and then his student was Naropa, who then became a great teacher, and his main pupil was Marpa, who became a great teacher, and his main pupil was Milarepa, who became a great teacher, and Dharma Lurgampopa, and then Pagmadrupa and Lord Dri Kungpa, who is the founder of this lineage, Lord Dri Kungpa. So we say this out of respect for them, to remember them. Then the next stanza, it says, by this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state. So may I achieve this awareness of the Buddha nature, this enlightened state. By this virtue, we get there through virtue. We don't get there through non-virtue. We have to be wholesome. We have to be virtuous. We have to give up. We have to cut off all the emotions, all the causes for the emotions, and so on. We have to purify ourselves. So by this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. So all beings are in this ocean of suffering, the samsara that I explained before. And the waves that come up are all these confusions, all these things that erupt out of the ocean. But it's made up of the ocean itself. When it settles down, it just all becomes part of the ocean. So we have to recognize that this ocean, that these things that rise up, is all the same. So this birth, when that rises up, when old age, when that rises up, when sickness, when that rises up, and when death, they're all like waves on this ocean of samsara, this ocean of suffering. And we need to defeat all the enemies that are the causes of these emotions, which is, generally speaking, confusion. Our confusion with not understanding what all this is, not understanding what ignorance is, not understanding what hatred is, not understanding what desire is, or what jealousy is, or what greed is. So we need to be able to take them apart, to be able to recognize them at their very basic elements, and then be able to construct and use the antidotes to be able to overcome those things. So we overcome the cause of suffering, the confusion. And then it says, the next stanza is bodhicitta, the holy enlightened mind, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. So to whatever degree we recognize bodhicitta within ourselves, if we haven't recognized it yet, if it's unborn, may it come. If we see it in other beings, may we help them to recognize bodhicitta within themselves. May we help it arise within them. And then where it is born, where it's born within ourselves, may it not decline, may it not go backwards, may we not turn our back on it, but may it ever increase higher and higher and higher and higher and higher until we become the embodiment of that bodhicitta, of that holy enlightened mind. So now we recite this together one time in English. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lurgampopa, Pagmadrupa, Lord Dri Kungpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state. And may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. So we say these things very deliberately with a heartfelt conviction. And over time, we memorize these and we repeat these all, every day, and we become the embodiment of these prayers. So there is one more prayer I would like to do, if we can find page 20. Michael? Or maybe it's not on that book, it may not be page 20. It's the Dekorma prayer. There it is. There it is. Okay. So it's the prayer on the left side. So this prayer, it says, by the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. So it's saying by the virtues that we collect in the three times, in the past, present, and future. So what we might have done in this life in the past, and this life in the present, what we're going to do in this life in the future, or if we can think that maybe there was lives before this life, and that there's lives in the future of this life, that whatever virtues are collected by all beings, not just myself, but all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, by that innate word of virtue, that true nature that we have within ourselves. We all have that goodness within ourselves, but it gets corrupted. We don't recognize it for what it is, and it's very subtle, and it's very easily suppressed. It's very easily walked over. It's very easily covered up. But we have this precious nature within ourselves. So may, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. So we'll just say that prayer, just that stanza right now. We say that together out loud in English. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. So Om Ahom, the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. The body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha and all the enlightened ones. So that concludes our Dharma talk for tonight. So thank you all very much. Any questions, comments? That was an okay? Okay. Well, tell me what you thought.
I'm really enjoying this. Thank you. I feel like it's sort of like you guys have all done this before, and you're kind of doing it again for me or something, and I appreciate it.
Well, we're doing it for Buddhism 101, and we've been through these cycles many times.
Okay.
And that's one of the beautiful part about this is we don't forget the fundamentals. We never get so arrogant that we forget the fundamentals. And that's real easy to do, to get arrogant and to develop spiritual pride. You know anybody like that?
Yeah. No.
So, and normally there would be some other people, but like I said, that William and had to go to the hospital, and his wife Bonnie is with him, so they would be with us. And so, but if it's just If it's just you and me, that's fine. If it's just me and the dust mites, that's okay too. We'll teach the dust mites. But Gary is really been with us now for a while, and Michael is my partner in arms, and Thomas is my inspiration. So we all work on this together. So thank you all very much.